So ISO fully released a couple days ago with the new act, and it actually brought me back into playing this game. I haven't really been playing Valorant, but with the release of ISO, I saw a character that actually interests me for the first time in a while. So I've been spamming ISO a lot in my lobbies, and I've been playing him non-stop, and I've put together a couple of tips and some words of advice that could help some newer players learn how to play ISO, or some people in even like Immortal, or even like in the Immortal Ascendant Elo, just kind of hop in and try ISO and kind of have some form of direction with what they're doing. With that being said, we're going to break down each piece of util and how you can effectively use all of them, as well as some tips you can use for his ultimate that I haven't seen too many people cover. Before we actually talk about ISO's utility, let's talk about the way he's going to be played. ISO is kind of like a duelist combined with Harbor in a sense that you can take space really easily. And ISO is also more of a supporting duelist. He's not really like the first man in kind of duelist. So you're going to use your vulnerables to hit the enemy team and use your push wall to get your team onto site. So basically, with this push wall, it's obviously invulnerable, can't be broken, absorbs bullets. You can use that and then throw a vulnerable in a different direction, and that will completely aid your team to get onto site. They can use the push wall as cover, and then hopefully in common positions, you have hit somebody with a vulnerable, and that's a pretty easy kill. From that point, you're going to be popping your double tap and following your team in and kind of just cleaning up and getting trades for your team, which is much better than if you're the first man in, because if you're the first man in, you're going to be getting traded a lot more. And unfortunately, ISO performs best when he gets a kill and has time to get his shield off. So it's very important that you're kind of letting your other duelists take the entry position, and you can be second man in, that's fine. But I wouldn't like strive to be the first person going in on ISO, just because you're not going to be doing nearly as much as you could be if you kind of sat in the back lines and used your utility to kind of support your team. So with that being said, let's hop in game here. And we are here on Haven, and we're going to talk about using his wall, because you can use it in a couple types of way. You can use it proactively and you can use it reactively. Reactively would be stopping like a raise ult, or stopping just line of sight in general from your team. Let's say the bomb is down here. This is a perfect example of where you can use his cover. You can throw this wall here and they just can't shoot through it. The bomb takes 7 seconds to defuse. This lasts close to 7 seconds. I don't know the exact timer. I'll throw a timer up on screen, but the bomb defuse is either 7 or 7.5 seconds. So let's time this real quick. So as you can see, it lasts 5 seconds. It takes 7 seconds to defuse. So do what you want with that information. A good way to maybe play this is you can just body block, and chances are they won't be able to spam you out, especially if there's a smoke down here and you body block for those last 2 seconds, they probably won't be able to spam you. But this is a guaranteed half. At the very least, this is a guaranteed half by using this, unless they're close up in the smoke and they peek through the smoke, or they peek through your wall. This is pretty much a guaranteed half in most situations. So aside from using it reactively like that, you can also use it very proactively. So a good way to proactively use his wall would be something like this, where you're throwing your wall like this. It blocks off heaven long enough for you to walk up, and you can clear out these angles as well. And this is best if you have like a jet dashing in, right? They can dash in right behind your wall and use it as cover to clear out this left side. And one way you can do this is you can throw this wall and then combine it on the back site here. And that way, anybody that's trying to peek the jet is vulnerable, and the jet should have a pretty easy kill. That's why I say it's best to be a supportive player when you're playing this character. So you can do this, pop this, and then run in with your double tap activated to trade the jet if the jet ends up dying. This is under the assumption you have short players and this whole side is clear. If it's not clear and you need to re-clear it, you can easily do that like this. You can even throw a vulnerable if you really want to. Now you can also use his wall to create angles for yourself. And what I mean by that is, let's say that there's a player peeking boxes here in grass, right? Let's say there's a player peeking from here and you want to kind of pressure him by using the wall. What you can do is you can pop your Q. And by the way, you can pop your Q no matter what. You can pop it if you're pulling out util. If you're using util, your Q can be popped at any point. So pop your double tap, and you can run out like this, and you can kind of use your wall to make an angle for yourself. And the way that this would work is, if there's a player sitting here, you could run up with it and then randomly wide swing and surprise him that way. So you can kind of use it as an angle to wide swing from very effectively. And I just got kicked out of my game. Okay. So yeah, his wall is very good for creating these angles for yourself and also for running in with. I wouldn't recommend like just sprinting down with your wall, but you can do it. I've done this a couple times where I kind of pop my Q and I just like fast clear everything And then by the time I'm here, I can vulnerable into U-Haul and kind of take a fight like that. So that's one way you can kind of use this wall if you want to get super aggressive with it. Getting yourself like into the teleporter also works very well with this wall. So it's very good at doing its job, which is isolating angles and isolating 1v1s. If you know you're getting peeked from 2 angles, you can throw this wall at somebody. So let's say that there's somebody peeking you from U-Haul, but you want to fight the guy that you also know is peeking you from sight. Say it's a 1v2. You can throw your wall, wait for it to form, and then kind of peek across like this and get yourself tucked into this angle and take a fight this way. If you get this kill, you can obviously vulnerable and go for another fight. Before we move on to the undercut, we have the shield and the undercut abilities displayed on the map, both of which can be thrown through the wall. So just keep that in mind. The undercut moves very, very fast, whereas the shield moves very slow and lasts for 5 seconds. So keep those numbers in mind, and let's move on to the undercut. I've noticed that the undercut pretty much just makes people take double damage. You can do this. One play that I already did was I sat in U-Haul here, and if I heard them running up short, I called for my Sova, I told him I was undercutting, and he ulted. He got 2 kills with 1 hit off of his Sova ult. So it's a very good combination util. It's very good for setting up plays with your teammates, and it's very good for solo supporting yourself. We'll go over setting up your teammates first, because this is one of the main ways that you are going to be using this ability. One of the ways I've been using it is I'll wait for my teammate to get close up, and I will throw my vulnerable here, and they will deal with anybody that's sitting in garden. I've noticed that it also likes to pressure people off. So if there was a Skye playing here, and I hit him with this vulnerable, he instantly ran away. He did that like 3 times in the last game I played on Buy. So just keep that in mind, that this is a very good piece of util for just forcing people off of angles, because it will scare them. Because being vulnerable in a position where you're about to get swung from a lot of people usually isn't the best idea. So it can force people off of angles, and it can also score your teammates some pretty free kills. And there we go again. So moving on to his double tap. The double tap is easily the coolest ability in his kit by far. Is it the strongest? No, probably not. But it is very cool. It can tank 1 tick of damage. That's 1 tick of damage. So it can tank like 1 hit from a classic, or it can tank 1 whole Raze ult. There's really no limits to how much damage this thing can tank. Just know that it can tank 1 tick. Other things to note about ISO's shield is you do not take fall damage, and you do not lose the shield while taking fall damage. And also you cannot stack the double tap ability, but it will reset your timer anytime you get a kill and shoot another orb, as you'll see right here. Also note that you only have to hit the shield's hitbox. You don't actually have to shoot ISO himself to remove his double tap shield. Also, never prioritize the ISO orbs over your own life. If you are getting swung by somebody else, do not go for the orb, go for the kill. I shouldn't have to say this, but I find myself making this mistake occasionally where I go for the orb when I am about to get swung by somebody, and I end up getting swung and I just lose the fight because of it. So yeah, make sure you're not greeding for the orb. It is a part of his kit, but it's not worth dying to get an orb that can maybe tank 1 hit of damage, right?
Wait, just turn around. You got a Bucky. That's 4. Or 3, it's 3.
No distraction.
Someone cover my body.
You got this. Nice, ISO.
So ISO's ult is very, very unique for an FPS game. In this clip, 2 things happened, right? The Raze ulted. I waited for the Raze to get closer to ensure that I, in fact, was getting targeted by the Raze and not one of my teammates. So I stay tucked with my ult out. When I heard the Raze running up, I popped my ult and pulled myself away from the fight because I knew I was about to die. And also, note that double tap does, in fact, activate, and an orb does drop when you kill an enemy player. I've actually been really bad about this because sometimes I'm so like drawn into the fight that I forget to hit the double tap orb after. But just know that when you're in your ult form, you do get a free double tap, so make sure you're taking advantage of that. So when you get into the ult, you will notice you have 2, they have 1. If they make any noise, you can pre-aim them. It is a 50-50 for them to guess where you are going to be and pre-aim it correctly. So if you just walk, you will take them off guard most of the times, and the chances are they won't be able to pre-aim perfectly every single time. So you have a major advantage here, just statistically speaking, number-wise. Not only that, but if you have your double tap activated, you do go into the fight with your shield. That's 1 free bullet that you can tank over the enemy player. So not only do you have the advantage of them not knowing which side you're going to be behind, you can also potentially have a shield going into the fight and then refresh it upon exiting the fight. Also know that if you pull a Jet with knives into your ultimate, they will lose their knives. I don't know about Chamber. I haven't tested it, but I'm assuming it works the same way. I think it vulnerables them so they don't have any abilities. So I'm assuming Chamber works the same way as well, where he will not have his op. So if you pull an opping Chamber or a knives Jet, they will have a classic versus you, which you should not lose. I have already lost it once, but you should not lose that fight ever, okay? Now, for a few situational tips with his ultimate, if you are in a 1v1 and you are trying to retake the bomb and somebody is playing time on you, you can pull them into your ult just for that free 1v1, and it levels the playing field exponentially. Plus, it gives you a slight advantage just because you are ulting him. Also, keep in mind that his ultimate gives your team a free temporary man advantage onto sites. Let's say there's 2 players playing on B side Ascent, and I pull one of them away. For the entire time I have them in the ult, that is one less player they have to worry about, and it places them back at the default position they were at. So not only that, but if my team is quick enough to get onto site, they can easily trade me out because that player is going to be coming back. So one last thing I'll cover is that if there's like a Raze ulting down on your team, you can pull the Raze away from the fight, canceling her ultimate. Also, another thing is you can stop the plant, obviously. So if the player only has a few seconds left to plant, you can just pull them away, preventing them from planting, and you'll win the round because of it. I'll have an updated guide eventually with more in-depth tips, but for now, I think this is a good starting point for anyone trying to learn the character and just learn the basics of the character, as well as I tried to set you up with some like gimmicky things you can do using his ultimate or using his abilities in general. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any comments or questions about the character, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll try and answer as many as I can. But with that being said, I'll talk to you guys later.